You've spent years believing you needed to vibe at the frequency of what you want. That thinking positive, making vision boards and repeating mantras would make the universe conspire in your favor. But what if I told you that belief is exactly what's keeping you stuck where you are? The truth no one talks about is this: it's not attraction, it's assumption. And that difference changes everything. The law of attraction makes you a magnet, waiting for things to come your way. But assumption, as Neville Goddard taught, turns you into the quiet creator of your reality. It's not about wanting, it's about being. It's not about asking for signs, it's about living in the end. And that's why so many people are frustrated. They're trying to manifest from a place of desire, when the real secret is to assume it's already done. Feeling creates, not thinking. If that sounds counterintuitive, good, because the paths that actually work usually feel weird at first. The good news? Once you get this, things speed up. What felt far away starts collapsing into your now. In this video, you'll uncover what no one's told you about manifestation and why the key isn't in the universe, but in who you choose to be right now, including the most powerful technique Neville used silently that hardly anyone teaches the right way. And if you apply it, you'll stop wishing and finally start living from the end. Most people hear manifestation and think of high vibes, vision boards, and waiting for the universe to deliver. But what Neville Goddard taught was a whole different path. It's not about attracting something far away. It's about assuming, deep within, that it's already yours. The difference between the law of attraction versus assumption is massive, yet most people don't see it. One is waiting. The other is stepping into the reality now. While attraction puts you in the role of someone hoping for something to show up, Neville Goddard's assumption invites you to sit on the throne and say, "This is already mine." And it's not about faking it or repeating affirmations in the mirror with no feeling. It's about sensing it with such truth that your inner world shifts before the outer world even blinks. Here's the catch. The outer world is just a mirror of the inner. When the inside changes, the outside has no choice but to follow. Imagine someone wants to experience deep love. With attraction, they'd ask, visualize, hope. But with assumption, they live in the end. Act, feel, and think as someone already loved. They're not looking for love, they are love. That's the power of living in the end, because imagination creates reality, and once that becomes your truth, the universe just aligns. What if that difference is exactly why you've been stuck all this time? Some people spend years trying to manifest and don't realize they're stuck in an invisible loop, wanting but never fully assuming. That's the biggest trap of the law of attraction. It keeps you in the role of someone asking, waiting for signs, looking for coincidences, and deep down, it just reinforces the feeling of lack. It's like being hungry and staring at a menu, thinking that'll somehow satisfy you. If all you do is desire, without living in the end, you're just feeding the emptiness. Neville Goddard made this super clear. As long as you're wishing for something, you're telling the universe, "I don't have it yet." And the universe, which only responds to your state of being, it says, "All right, you don't have it." Harsh? Maybe, but that's just internal coherence at work. You can light candles, make dream boards, wait for 11:11, but if your assumption is built on lack, guess what keeps repeating? More lack. Because what you feel as real becomes real. Ever met someone who's always waiting for a sign that their manifestation is coming? That's the trap. The mind builds expectations, but the heart is soaked in scarcity. It's a sad paradox. The more you want it, the more you confirm it's not there. And that's where the law of assumption becomes freedom. It takes you out of the role of a beggar and puts you in charge of your own reality. But what happens when you finally realize you don't need to want anymore? Here's the raw truth. Too much attraction is a silent poison. It looks spiritual, but keeps you locked in the identity of someone who doesn't have, and that quietly kills everything inside. This is the turning point. You're not here to attract. You're here to be. The law of assumption doesn't wait for the world to respond. It creates from the inside out. I am prosperous. I am loved. I am healthy. These aren't cheesy affirmations. They're identities. Neville Goddard taught that the universe doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to who you are deep down. Think about it. If someone feels rejected, insecure, small, saying pretty phrases won't do a thing. What manifests is what already vibrates under the surface. Assumption says, become what you want to see. Don't just wish for money, assume you're someone who lives in prosperity. Don't just want a relationship, feel like someone who already loves and is loved. It's a subtle shift, but it's the difference between real manifestation and endless waiting. This can be uncomfortable at first because it demands responsibility. I remember a woman who once wrote to me and said, "I spent my whole life trying to vibrate right, until one day I just assumed I was already a mum. 2 months later, I found out I was pregnant." When your being shifts, the world has no choice. You realize it's not about the world out there anymore. It's about your internal state. And with that awareness comes real power. That's when things start to change. The assumption scene you play in your mind begins to feel more real than what your eyes see. And when that happens, living in the end becomes inevitable. "I'm vibing at the frequency of what I want." You hear that all the time. But living in the end, Neville style, has nothing to do with that. It's not about frequency, it's about consciousness. You might be thinking positive thoughts, meditating, using crystals, but if you're not living internally in the reality you want, it doesn't matter. Assumption is not just positive thinking. It demands a radical shift in identity. It's like your future self inviting you to move in and today. Would you accept? Or would you wait for life to change first, so you could finally feel different? When you live in the end, even without any outside proof, something deep inside begins to shift. You stop looking for signs because you become the sign. You already carry yourself like someone who made it. You already think like someone who received it. You already feel like someone who has it. Imagination creates reality. That's the shift that changes everything. Here's a simple example. Let's say you want to change careers. Instead of vibing with the new job, you start acting like someone who already lives from it. You wake up differently. You speak with more certainty. You create with confidence. Not because you're faking it, but because you've assumed it. The feeling in assumption isn't pretend, it's home. And when you live from that place, reality has no option but to adjust. But what if, even after doing all this, your mind still tries to sabotage it? Maybe that's exactly where you're drifting off course without even noticing. But there's a way to break that, and we'll get to it. Lots of people are out here thanking the universe for things they don't really believe are theirs yet. "Grateful for my new car," they say. But inside, they feel doubt, emptiness, lack, and that's the problem. Giving thanks without assuming the state is like wrapping an empty box. It looks nice on the outside, but it's hollow. In the law of assumption, real gratitude only makes sense when your state already lives in the end. Otherwise, it's just trying to convince the universe, and that never works. Neville Goddard was clear. It's about feeling as if it's already done. When you live in the end, gratitude flows naturally, not forced. You feel relief, presence, completeness. That feeling in assumption is what creates internal coherence. So if you catch yourself forcing gratitude, maybe it's time to ask, have I really assumed the state? Or am I just trying to look confident on the outside? That question alone can change everything. Think of it this way. It's like applauding a play that hasn't even started. Empty applause. Gratitude on this path is the celebration after the happy ending. It shows up effortlessly when your inner state is already living there. And if you're not feeling that gratitude naturally, it doesn't mean you failed. It just means there's still a shift to make. So if your mind isn't the one leading the way, what exactly anchors this new internal state? This might be the most overlooked part of manifestation: feeling. Traditional attraction focuses on positive thinking, visualizing, repeating affirmations. But the law of assumption goes straight to the heart, literally. Feeling in assumption isn't a side note, it's the engine. Thinking without feeling is like trying to turn on a lamp with no power. It's the realness of the emotion that brings your imagined scene to life. Without that, nothing manifests. Ever notice how the strongest memories always come with strong emotions? Exactly. Emotions lock in states. Neville Goddard said feeling is the secret because it's what stamps the new identity onto your subconscious. You can repeat "I'm rich" 1,000 times, but if you still get nervous checking your bank account, guess what state's actually running the show? Your mind can lie, but your body tells the truth. And that's where real transformation begins. Here's a simple exercise. Choose a scene that represents your desired end. A hug of celebration, someone saying, "We did it." A deep moment of peace. Now, close your eyes and feel. Feel the scent in the air, the texture around you, the sound in the background, the emotion of being there. Picture the temperature in the room, the tone of the voice congratulating you, the weight of that hug. The more vivid it feels, the more your body starts believing it's already real. Don't watch the scene from a distance. Step into it, because imagination creates reality, but only when your whole body joins in. And maybe, just maybe, This feeling is the missing link between you and the life you've been waiting for. Ever told yourself one thing but felt something completely different? Like saying, "I trust," while secretly biting your nails with anxiety. Yeah, the universe listens to coherence, not empty words. The law of assumption only works when there's alignment between what you think, feel, and embody. If you're projecting confidence but vibrating doubt inside, guess which one wins? That's internal coherence in action, and it's what shapes your results. It's like tuning a radio. If your internal state is stuck on the scarcity station, you're not going to hear the abundance channel, no matter how hard you try. You can stick motivational quotes all over your wall, but if your body feels fear, your mind races, and your soul feels lack, none of it sticks. Living in the end isn't a mind trick, it's a visceral realignment, and that requires radical honesty with what you're actually feeling. So, if you want to manifest a new reality, pause and ask, is my current state aligned with what I say I want? If not, start adjusting the little things. How you speak about yourself, what content you consume, who you surround yourself with. Everything you do broadcasts a state, and when that state changes, reality has to shift too. But how do you build that new state in a real grounded way, without just forcing it? Now it's time to get hands-on, or better yet, mind-on. Neville Goddard taught that one of the most powerful ways to enter the state of the end is through a short, realistic and repeated scene. But don't confuse this with daydreaming. It's not a fantasy movie, it's a sensory experience within you. The assumption scene should include smell, touch, sound, emotion. And the key part, the scene happens after the desire is fulfilled, as if it's already done. Here's a practical example. Let's say your desire is to pass an important exam. Your scene could be you hugging someone after seeing the results, feeling relieved, hearing, "I knew you could do it." You're not seeing the test itself, you're living the consequence of the outcome. That locks in the state. And as you repeat it, again and again, something inside you starts shifting. The emotion settles in, the body starts believing, and then reality follows. Remember, imagination creates reality. Include an inner dialogue too, in the present tense. Things like, "I am approved," "I am thriving," "I am free." Say it in your mind like it's already true, and pay attention to what it stirs in your chest. That's the bridge between now and your desired end. That's how the law of assumption works, from the inside out. And the more natural this practice becomes, the more signs start showing up. But how can you be sure you're actually in the state? How do you know when assumption is working? The most common question people ask once they start using the law of assumption is, how do I know if it's working? And here's the part nobody talks about. The first signs don't show up outside. Before anything shifts in the world, something shifts inside. You realize you're no longer chasing things because a quiet confidence takes over. You stop looking for proof because now you feel the reality. That's what living in the end really looks like. Effortlessness. Another big sign is synchronicity. Random events, conversations, moments that feel like coincidence begin to match your new state. You think of something, and suddenly it starts taking shape right in front of you. Not as magic, but as reflection. Internal coherence starts to leak outward, and then it clicks. Your world isn't responding to your words or desires. It's responding to your identity. And all of this starts before the big manifestation shows up. You also start behaving differently, without forcing it. You begin saying no to what no longer fits your new self. Some friendships fade out. Old habits feel awkward. It's like shedding skin. That feeling in assumption reshapes everything. And when your internal world has really shifted, the external world doesn't stand a chance. But if the thing you're waiting for still hasn't appeared, does that mean it didn't work? This is the part that ties everything together. When your inner state changes, manifestation becomes inevitable. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of time. The law of assumption doesn't rely on effort. It's rooted in identity. The outside world has to reflect your inner world. Think of it like a mirror. It doesn't create what you want. It just shows you what you already are. And the deeper the inner shift, the more solid and lasting the outer reality becomes. Neville Goddard kept coming back to this idea of being because he knew wishing doesn't create, assuming does. And once that new version of you settles in, once living in the end stops being a technique and becomes second nature, the world reacts. Not with crumbs, but with full alignment. Everything that used to clash with your new self fades out. What belongs stays, what matches comes. You don't chase, you radiate. And the world responds. And here's the wild part. When you finally are, you're not even in a hurry anymore. The anxiety fades, the search ends, because living in the end already fills you up, and it's from that place of wholeness that the manifestation shows up, not as a miracle, but as a mirror. Imagination creates reality, yes, but only when the creator fully becomes the creation. And maybe, just maybe, what you're living right now is just the beginning of a new version of you that's already being born. So now tell me, are you going to keep trying to attract what you want, or are you finally going to assume it's already yours? Will you keep looking for external signs, or start living from the end, like it's already done? Because the truth is, you don't need more techniques. You need one internal decision. Who are you choosing to be right now? Maybe this is the turning point you've been waiting for. What if the thing you want is just waiting for you to step into the right role in your story? And if you stay the way you are, how much longer will you live stuck between wanting and waiting? How many more cycles will you repeat before finally owning the fact that it's already yours? From now on, you don't need to chase anything. When your state of being shifts, everything shifts. And no, this isn't just pretty talk. It's daily practice, real presence, and inner mastery. Are you ready for that? Because if not, the world will just keep reflecting who you still haven't chosen to be. If this message hit home for you, if something just clicked inside, then subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Because here, we don't talk about magic. We talk about real transformation, and this is just the beginning. Come join us on this journey of becoming who you were always meant to be.